Welcome to this episode of Kennedy Saves the World. It's happy hour, and nothing makes people happier than partnering up during hot girl or hot boy summer. My very favorite dating expert in the world is here. She is the host of the Dates and Mates podcast. She's the authoress of the book F the Fairytale. Damona Hoffman, dating expert and lover of a liquid that may or may not be rosé. Is here. Cheers to you.
Cheers, Kennedy. Can't have hot girl summer without rosé.
Without rosé, exactly right.
Of course.
What are people doing wrong?
A lot of things. First of all,
I know frustrated people of both sexes, various orientations, and it doesn't matter if they're heterosexual or they're gay or they're questioning or whatever. They're all having a hard time, and they all have blame for other people. I was asking people today, who is crazier, men or women? And I asked women this in the hair and makeup room, and what do you think they said?
Well, the women said men are crazier.
No, they said the women.
Oh, really?
Yes, they did.
And they're part of the problem.
Yeah,
but also the solution.
Some of them are in partnerships and others are not. But they're like, no, that we hear more stories about women going nuts.
Well, I've worked with both men and women for, I hate to say, almost 20 years.
Good for you.
I know.
We need that expertise.
We need the expertise. And I've been a part of it I met my husband online.
Oh, nice.
And that's how I've helped most of my clients meet their partners. So I've watched the evolution. And what's happening right now is that we're experiencing this communication crisis. People want to blame the dating apps. They want to blame changes in society. They want to blame COVID. They want to blame all of these outside factors for what everyone is experiencing as this disconnect. We just want to have real conversations. We want to have people really show up when we make a date. We want it to be meaningful. But because the way that we have communicated for the last, say, 10 years has changed, now it's all texting. It's rapid. It's devoid of that human connection. Everybody's really starved for it, but nobody really knows how to go about finding it.
Yeah, and it's, you play this game where you don't seem too interested, and then you are off-putting because, it's like, I'm of the belief that if you're interested, just say it.
I know. People will always write into Dates and Mates saying, well, I don't know if they're the one. I don't know if they're interested. I'm like, did you ask?
Yeah,
did you say?
Who cares if they're the one? Like, that's also
Yes.
There's so much pressure, and to the thesis of your book. And I think women especially put so much pressure on this idea of a fairy tale and having, these perfect photographable, postable moments that really are devoid of a soul.
Yeah.
And a real connection, because you're automatically disconnected if you're living for this sort of third party that really has nothing to do with a deeply connected relationship.
Well, that brings up a second thing that is wrong with the way people are dating today. And I really look at dating apps as the most powerful tool in your dating toolbox. It shouldn't be the only thing that you're using, but it does work if you know how to work it. But a lot of people present themselves on dating apps the same way they would on social media.
Yeah.
We don't want perfect and polished. We want real and authentic.
Yeah, because where do you go from there? That's what I've never understood. And, I've got a friend, I was never on dating apps, which is why before I met my boyfriend, I had a really abysmal time. And, it's like part of it is being in media, being on TV. I'm like, it's weird if someone's like, oh, I know her from Fox News. And then they have all these preconceived notions and, that whole thing is weird. But I have friends who are like, go on dating apps. I'm really good at this. I'll tell you exactly which picture to put on there and what to say in your profile. And it felt like so much pressure that it was even more off-putting. But what should people do? Like, what's something, if a person has not had success on a dating app, what are like 3 little things they could do to help make it better?
Well, first they should read F the Fairytale.
That's right.
Of course. But in it, I talk about how to have a profile that's really, it's like your resume. It's your calling card. And I know we don't want to think of ourselves as marketing ourselves for love. We have this addiction to the fantasy, like you were saying, the fairy tale, the how it's supposed to go. And as soon as you let go of that story, our brains love stories. We love to complete the story, but let go of the story and let it unfold and realize that you're writing your story right now. And like people would always say to
It's
me,
like,
I
the
don't want to
rest
meet.
is left unwritten.
Right.
Natasha Bedingfield.
Thank you so much, Natasha. But people would say to me, I don't want to meet someone online because that's not the story that I want to tell my children about how we met. And I'm like, Mike, I met online. My kids, they're just happy they're alive.
But also,
Like,
so many more people do it.
care.
There's no shock in it. Like,
Yeah.
I think 15 years ago, it's like, what? You met on Match.com? That's so unromantic and disgusting. But now
Yes.
it's like so many people that there's no stigma to it. And if there is, like, it's maybe 5%, whereas before it was like 80% stigma.
Sure. Well, the stigma has definitely gone down, but still there's this shame around it. Like, oh, I couldn't meet anybody.
I happened to be the one he landed on because he was looking for a bunch of other hoochies, and I guess I'm good enough.
Right. And that's not the case. And especially if you approach it strategically. So first we do a refresh of the profile. Actually, before we even get to the refresh of the profile, I have to ask people, what are you looking for? And so many times people will tell me, I talk in the book about the list myth, like must be 6 foot tall or taller, must have this education or more, must have my level of income or higher. And a lot of women in particular are sort of pricing themselves out of the dating market. And that causes a lot of frustration then for men and causes them sometimes to act to not be their best selves.
Yeah. And it's
app.
also another disconnect. Like, it's almost a defense mechanism.
True.
You know, it's like, these are things, well, unless you're on here, like, I can't be with you. It's like, well, maybe you're so scared you don't want to be with someone. So this is a crutch that you use to keep people at arm's distance. And, you know, when I think about when I met my boyfriend, I think about what he did right. And I think about what I did right in order to connect. And most of it was like, neither of us played games. Like, I didn't pretend to be unavailable and he didn't wait 3 days to text me. There was none of that. But I was also, and I try and tell people this, and it's, you know, it's hard to convey unless you've kind of done it, but it's like I spent a lot of time just sort of healing and being happy by myself. And that it took time, you know, and it's like you can get frustrated, but once you find that you're doing things for the sake of your own happiness, it kind of gives you a wholeness that without even realizing it, that's kind of an attractive quality. And then once you do have a completion and a balance and a joy in your life, like that's something that someone wants to share with you.
Yeah.
And my boyfriend, like he didn't screw around, like he didn't play games. And I always thought that was very mature. And he was like, no, I'm into this, like I want to go out again. And I was like, this is great.
Yeah, I
And
wish
he
more
picked me
people
up
would do
at my
it.
apartment.
But you know what that requires? It requires a lot of vulnerability.
Yes.
And being willing to open up and share how you feel, knowing that the other person might not feel the same way. And so a lot of people that are listening probably think, well, I'm whole, I'm good, I'm healed, I'm ready. But it's that vulnerability, that opening up that is keeping people from getting in to see the real you.
Yeah.
So we have kind of a two-pronged strategy. First, it's mindset and clarifying what are those predominant thoughts that you have about dating. Like all the time, people will say to me all these negative things about like, well, men are this, men are that. This is always happens on dating apps, and then wonder why they're getting more of that in return because you're priming your
brain. Why are they
brain.
getting more than that?
You're priming your brain to see that.
So I was listening to someone like I can't stand like manifestation and The Secret and all that stuff, but I heard a good explanation for it. I know I heard a good explanation for it, and it was manifestation is basically just reminding yourself of what you want so you recognize it when you see it.
Yeah.
So, and you know, I'm a huge believer that we often are a product of what we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
And you know, if you tell yourself, you know, you got this, you're beautiful, it's all good, you're okay, then you tend to have a little more confidence, and like that sort of mini self-soothing sort of makes you better throughout the day. But if you tell yourself, I suck, I do this every time, I did this again, I can't believe I'm the worst at this, and there's so many people are so bad, and I'm the worst, and the worst people always come to me because I'm so bad at this. So it's like that's what you're putting out there. So that's what you recognize. So that's what you latch onto and gravitate to. So I do agree with that. I mean, I don't like this phony baloney positivity, but there is something to be said about taking care of yourself first and then being able to reach out to another person and have an interdependent relationship.
Yeah, because what happens when you move into the relationship and you're looking for someone to quote complete you? You know, there's another story,
Yeah.
another rom-com
Guess
fairy
what? They
tale
have just as
moment.
many issues as you do.
Yeah,
The
and
question is, what do you do with it now?
yeah. And then that's going to be more work for you down the road. So you might as well deal with it up front and really get clear on your own mindset and then what you actually need in a relationship. And beyond the fairy tale, what we've been told by our families, by our community, what we've seen in rom-coms, the universal vision of attraction is not really how it happens in real life and not necessarily what you even need. Like I work with a lot of women that are high earners, high achievers, and they're thinking that they need somebody that's at their quote level
Mm-hmm.
or higher. But when I start doing dating math and I look at how big that pool actually is, they realize that one, that is, we're looking for a needle in a haystack.
Mm.
And two, that's not actually what they want or need. That's what they've been told by someone else. They actually need somebody that's going to be a co-parent if they want to have kids, or
Yes.
somebody that's not going to be intimidated by their
I don't like
success.
the idea of cutting choices out of your life because a guy isn't where you think he should be. Because I do think there's something about creativity and aspiration. And, maybe you're the factor that will bring the best out in him and give him the confidence to make that next step. And then, he'll make $1 billion because of that. But I don't like this idea that there has to be a number or there has to be like salary parity because like if you make good money as a woman, you should be stoked. You should be
Yeah.
happy. It's like finding someone to share that with doesn't mean that you have to be with money bags, but it's like the joy in the adventure is pretty friggin' great. Like
Yeah.
even if your bank statements don't match and it's like always keep your money to yourself. That's fine. I always tell my daughters that make your own money.
Don't go anywhere. More Kennedy Saves the World right after this.
And people can contribute to the relationship in different ways. So
Absolutely.
that's what I encourage people to figure out. What do you need in a relationship and what does that look like? So I do like manifestation, not the phony blow. I was kind of
Like The Secret.
I was so mad.
I'm
Kennedy.
chanting for a Bentley.
When I read The Secret, I was so mad because I was like, that's the secret?
Yeah.
I already do that. Like that is just how one should live their life.
Yeah.
Like always having an idea of what you want, and then as you said, your mind is fixated around that thing that you want, and then you order your life to get that thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to just, sometimes I'll ask people, what are you looking for in a match? And they'll say, well, I'll know it when I see it. I'm like, honey, have you seen it yet?
Yeah.
If you haven't,
It's like pornography.
then wait, what?
Yeah, that was the Supreme Court justice, the definition. Like I know pornography when I see it.
Oh, God.
Like,
yeah. So we have to get clear first, and then we design the profile. And nobody wants to think of their profile as marketing themselves, but really that's what we're doing.
I mean, but isn't that what all social media is?
It's
like
a good point.
you're
That's a
putting
good
your
point.
brand forward.
Yeah.
And if you're examining your life, aren't you working on your brand?
I know, but people don't want to think of themselves as a brand. But it really does work better on dating apps if you have that clear idea of how am I presenting myself? What is the story that my profile is telling me? It's telling somebody else. And also thinking of it not from the point of view of like all your girlfriends that wanted to do your profile for you. It's not how they see you. It's not how you see you. It's how you want the person that you're attracting to see you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think of it from their perspective, they may want to see different things than what your bestie tells you.
Yeah,
you
for
should
sure.
put. Yeah.
I mean, the guys want to see like super slutty girls?
Well, of course. I mean, guys always want to see super slutty girls.
But if they're looking for a girlfriend.
But if they're looking for a girlfriend, they're going to view you in a different way. Like I had this profile that I did for a media appearance, and the woman had her bikini shots. She had like party girl pics. I know we're drinking rosé, but I wouldn't put it on my profile. Let's just say that. So I looked at her profile and I was like, I'm just going to guess just from looking at your profile, you're getting a lot of matches, but you're not getting a lot of viable dates,
Yeah.
people that you could actually move into a relationship with, because you're telling me you want a serious relationship, but this is what you're presenting. And she was like, that's exactly it. So we took some of the bikini shots off. It's not that people don't want to see it. It's not that they weren't beautiful. It's just it wasn't marketing her in the way that she was wanting to be perceived.
Yeah. No, you're basically telling dudes you want to hook up. And they're
Yeah.
like, a lot of dudes want to hook up. They're like, great.
They will hook up. I asked my husband on our like 5th date. I said, if I had sex with you on the first date, would you have? And he's like, probably. I mean, and who knows? I don't necessarily believe in the like, if you have sex on the first date, then it's never going to work out. But I think you just rob yourself of that magic. Will they or won't they?
Yes.
You're robbing yourself of your own rom-com when you move too fast in a relationship.
I agree completely.
Yeah. So we got to slow it down. And that's another thing that a lot of people are doing wrong. The whole speed of dating today
Too
is
fast? Too
too
slow?
fast. It's way too fast. I know you weren't on the apps, but it's like swipe, 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 chat for a little bit. Hey, can we get off the app? Set a date. And then the person ghosts, doesn't show up. You're on the way to the date. They cancel because of that disconnect. We're not taking enough time to really form a connection. You're just a picture. You're a name on a phone. You're not a real person. To them
Okay,
yet.
but that's, and I think this has arisen from dating culture, and that's ghosting. Like, I'm sure ghosting has always existed, but now
It's out
it
of
is
control.
so normalized.
Yeah.
And people don't just do it before a first date. They do it in relationships. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to slowly back away and not have any conflict. And it robs people of their dignity. It's a pretty horrible thing, but it feels just, people I talk to and stories I read that it's so much more prevalent.
Yes, ghosting is at levels that I've never seen before.
Is it because it's all so disposable and you know that there's another swipe around the corner?
That's the conclusion a lot of people come to.
Yeah.
I actually think it's more about this communication crisis. We are so overloaded with communication. I mean, like, just before you walked in, I was sitting here like, and I got messages, I have text messages, I have WhatsApp messages, I have Instagram DMs, I have, it's like you have, most people are on 2 or 3 apps at the same time.
Yeah.
You have messages coming in from every corner, and it desensitizes us to each individual interaction.
Yes.
Because again, they're not a real person.
Yeah,
they're just a name and a phone.
I think that's the word for it. I think it is desensitization.
Yeah. And people are ghosting not just in dating. If you really think about it, where are you ghosting in your life as well? Like in your professional life. Oh, I get so many emails. Like I'm just going to ignore all these messages. And when we push away and we disconnect, that does create the desensitization, and it creates this dissatisfaction in dating where even when we are connected, even when the person shows up, we feel like they're not there.
No, you can feel their eyes maybe looking at you, but their brain is focused somewhere else completely. That's the worst feeling.
Yeah, and we're
I guess
so
what do we do?
attached to our
Like
phones.
just, investigate our own mindfulness. So when we're on a date, when we're in the moment, we're there completely.
Yeah, if we do that,
And
first of all,
does that pull someone into the zone?
take care of your side of the street.
Yeah.
And then also there's this feeling of nobody wants to lead anymore. Like everyone's like, the other person should be asking me more questions. This is how it's supposed to go. This is the script. And I have to remind my Dates and Mates listeners, you are in control of your dating destiny. You're responsible for your own good time. If you don't like where the conversation is going, change the topic. If you don't like the questions that are being asked, you ask different questions. You offer different information, or get out of there.
Yes.
Like you don't owe that person your time, and time's our most valuable resource.
Oh,
Not getting any more of it.
I had one date last year before I met my boyfriend, and I left we met at a bar, and he was already drunk.
Oh,
and so obnoxious that I left, and he went to the bathroom, and I said to the woman next to me, bye, and she's like, are you? And I said, yeah, and and I left, and it was awful.
Good for you.
Yeah, but it was like I couldn't. I was like robbing myself of valuable time by indulging someone who I don't know. I cannot describe, explain, or diagnose what was happening. I just knew I had to get myself out of that situation, and I'm very happy that I did.
Yeah. That's good
It was
that you
kind of
did that.
lame. Like, sure, I should have been like, I gotta go and make some excuse. But I was like, no, I gotta send a message.
Well, and if he didn't show up as his best self, he's already
No.
drunk. So I
Hammered.
think, it's probably not the first time either that he's been in that situation.
Yeah.
So when we take care of our side of the street and you gave that person a boundary, you showed them, like, you behave like this on a date, people are going to leave. That helps to get a little bit more awareness of what's happening. And the other thing that I recommend people do is to just speak the truth, honor what's happening and say it aloud. Like, if you, like, I had this one date where we it just wasn't a match, like, from the beginning. Like, perfectly nice person, just didn't want to be there. And he said, like, 20 minutes into the date, do you want to go? Like, I guess it was just obvious in my body language. Do you want to go? It seems like this isn't a match, and if you want to get on with your evening, that's fine, and we can say goodbye. And I was
You're like, oh,
I
thank
do.
God. Thank you,
I
Jesus.
do want to leave.
Yes.
Thank God. Yeah.
Oh.
But if he hadn't said it, and I'm learning all along with my clients, like, if he hadn't said that, I probably would have sat there politely for another hour,
and
hour
died
and a
of
half.
politeness.
We also need to be spending less time on first dates.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. I tell my clients an hour and a half tops, especially if you're coming from a dating app, because that first meeting isn't really a date. It's kind of like, it's a check-in.
Okay.
It's just, let me make sure you look like your pictures. I can have a conversation with you.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to think of the energy of a date feeling like it's ending in the middle, because that leaves something more to be discovered.
Yes. And like you said, like, you should have something on the other side. You should have something that makes you wonder and gives you butterflies and, feels slightly unfinished.
Yeah.
And that, I think that something beautiful can blossom from that. Why do people and I hear this all the time, and I think it's hysterical. Why do people put pictures of themselves that are essentially not really them? Like, they're either so old or taken from angles that in no way represent the physical person behind the profile.
Because we're all self-conscious. And we look at those pictures
But
of ourselves.
do they think, like, obviously someone's going to sit down and be like, wow, you are a tub of lard. You posted a picture of a guy like 170, 180, and you're like 305. I mean, did they think, like, yes, but I'm so charming that she's going to fall in love with me once she sees my eyes?
Maybe. Sometimes that is. And also, sometimes it's just that person not being in.
And that's not just men. I mean, women do the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
With,
And
like,
we're in denial
lashes
of
and extensions and
filters.
Too many filters.
I've had to rip the filters off of so many profiles.
Don't
Now
do
a
it.
lot of the apps don't even let you put up filtered pictures.
Excellent.
Yeah, but we just have to be honest about who we are. But, this is why Instagram is also a problem for dating, because we look at always filtered photos on Instagram that are the perfected version of that person. And then we are judging ourselves against that. So we think, well, I need to change my appearance if that person is going to like me.
You know who has
truth in
benefited from that
advertising.
culture? Plastic surgeons.
Oh, I know.
Because people go to plastic surgeons like, I want to look as good as I do in my filtered picture. And they're like, sure.
It's true.
$50,000.
Plastic surgery is way up.
Yes.
Thank you, Kardashians. I mean, all of it is really due to the Instagram culture.
Yes.
And even we weren't, if you think about dating in the olden times before apps, we weren't that used to looking at ourselves. And even dating before Zoom.
Such a good point.
Right? We spent so much time
and selfies,
watching ourselves.
Just like you didn't look at a picture of yourself as it was being taken.
No.
You took the roll and it got developed, and then you looked and went, oh my God, I have a double chin.
I'll just take that out.
Exactly.
Face app that away.
But but now it's like, oh wait, hold on.
Right. Right. So now there is one sort of universal standard of beauty. There are all these filters that in one click, everybody gets the same look and the same treatment. And so we're all judging ourselves against that. And the interesting thing is that in person, people are not necessarily judging you in the same way. They're just trying to connect. but we're so afraid of what we've seen that we can't show up authentically ourselves, that brings up fear and anxiety.
Yes, and there's so much fear, there's so much anxiety that people have to. I'm very convinced that mindfulness will not cure it, but alleviate a lot of that if you truly live in the moment, because so much of fear is based on what has happened and what you're worried is going to happen. And, it helps in life and it helps in dating, but not as much as F the Fairy Tale, which everyone should buy and download and consume today.
Thank you.
And Dates and Mates.
Thank you.
Your podcast. Damona Hoffman.
Writing love stories every day.
Damn, Skippy. And there are many love stories to be written. I don't want people to lose faith.
That's really why I wrote F the Fairy Tale. People think, oh, it's me just, bringing down the whole dating culture.
Yeah.
It's not false positivity. It's real positivity to give you the tools to be able to date differently and realize that you are in control of what happens in your dating life. And if you just approach it with a slightly different lens, it will change your results and your experience, and then you'll be singing a different tune.
Here's to unfiltered perfection.
Damona
Hoffman, thank
Cheers.
you so much. This has been Kennedy Saves the World, along with Damona Hoffman. I'm Kennedy.
Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app. Oh, go ahead and leave me a review while you're there. I'd love to hear what you have to say. You've been listening to Kennedy Saves the World on the Fox News Podcast Network.